Part 1. The Missing Heiress. Rain-slicked streets glimmered under the yellow haze of streetlights, every surface reflecting the restless city. New Briar always looked dirtier in the rain, as though the water tried to wash it clean, but only spread, the filth thinner. Detective Ethan Cole leaned against his car, cigarette glowing faint in the drizzle, and watched the Voss mansion loom above him like some medieval fortress. Mansions weren't unusual in New Briar. Wealth thrived while poverty rotted. But this one had history. Old stone, ivy crawling, up its walls and windows that felt more like eyes. He flicked ash into a puddle. He didn't like private cases. He liked rules, files, clear jurisdictions. But when the commissioner himself called, saying the Voss family's daughter had vanished without a trace, Ethan had no choice. The Vosses weren't just rich, they were untouchable. Inside, the mansion was all chandeliers and cold marble. Portraits of ancestors stared down from the walls, each one painted sterner than the last. A man in a tailored suit approached, his shoes silent on the marble. He was tall, silver-haired, with eyes that could cut glass. Victor Voss, Ethan knew before the introduction. Detective Cole, Voss said smoothly, as though greeting an employee, not a man who might find his daughter dead in a ditch. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Missing person. Cases don't wait for schedules, Ethan replied, pocketing his lighter. His voice carried the roughness of too many sleepless nights. Voss nodded once, tight-lipped. Clara disappeared 2 nights ago. No note, no struggle. Just gone. Was anyone with her? Ethan asked. My wife, Victor said, gesturing toward a grand sitting room. Inside, Eleanor Voss reclined on a velvet chaise, her pale fingers wrapped around a crystal glass. Her beauty was cold, practiced, and Ethan had seen it before. The kind of beauty built like armor. She gave him a glance that measured, judged, dismissed, all in one. She was in her room, Elena said, voice soft but brittle, and then she wasn't. Ethan took out his notebook. Any signs of forced entry? Victor's jaw tightened. No, nothing touched, nothing broken. That bothered Ethan. He'd expected ransom, maybe a burglary gone wrong. But no. 2. Clean. Show me her room, Ethan said. Clara's room was on the 3rd floor, a space caught between youth and adulthood. Posters of musicians half ripped from walls, an open laptop on the desk, clothes scattered on the floor. But the disarray wasn't the kind that spoke of chaos. It was curated, almost staged. Ethan scanned the details. Bed neatly made, jewelry, box untouched. Laptop still logged in, but browsing history wiped clean. A faint scent of perfume lingered, but beneath it, cigarette smoke, not hers. He crouched near the desk and saw it, a tiny scratch along the hardwood, as if something had been dragged. He ran his fingers along the wall. Hollow. Your daughter ever renovate this room? He asked, without looking up. Victor frowned. No. Why? Ethan knocked again, listening. Hollow. Too hollow. Because there's space behind this wall, Ethan said. And somebody didn't want you to know. He pried open the panel with his penknife. The wall gave way, revealing a narrow crawl space, dusty but not unused. Inside was a corkboard covered with photographs. Ethan's gut clenched. The photos weren't of friends or family. They were of strangers, men, women, children. Dozens of faces. Each one marked with dates, and those dates matched the disappearance files Ethan had memorized over his career. Clara hadn't just been living her life, she'd been investigating the city's ghosts. Victor's voice cut sharp. What the hell is this? Ethan didn't answer right away. He studied the board. Some photos had strings connecting them, leading toward a center photo that made his breath hitch. The center wasn't a missing person. It was a building, an abandoned textile factory on the east side. He knew it well. It had been shut down after a fire 15 years ago. Since then, It had been nothing but a ruin, or so everyone believed. Your daughter was looking for something, Ethan finally said. Or someone. Eleanor's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Her voice trembled. Are you saying Clara was obsessed? I'm saying, Ethan said, pulling a photo free, that she may have found out more than she should have. Later, back at his office, Ethan pinned Clara's board photos beside his own case files. They fit too neatly, too perfectly. One file in particular made his skin crawl. The Harrow Street vanishings, a cluster of disappearances no one ever solved. All poor, all ignored by the press, except here they were, on Clara's board. Why would a wealthy heiress care, unless she wasn't investigating for curiosity, unless it was personal? Ethan poured whiskey into a chipped glass, the city lights glaring through his blinds. He flipped the photo of the factory over. A word was scrawled on the back in shaky handwriting. Listen. The glass nearly slipped from his fingers, because Ethan had seen that handwriting before, in old reports, in cold cases where the notes had no author. He set the glass down, hands trembling just slightly. Something buzzed against his desk. His phone. Unknown number. He answered. Silence. Then faintly, a woman's voice, whispering, Detective Cole, you're already on the board. The line went dead. Ethan stared at the phone, the weight of those words sinking in. On the board. He turned to Clara's photos again, and froze. Because tucked behind one photo he hadn't noticed before, clipped by a pin, was a smaller image. Not of a stranger, not of a missing person. Of him, standing in front of the factory. 10 years ago, a place he had no memory of ever visiting. Part 2. The Web Tightens. The photograph haunted him. It sat on his desk under the lamplight, grainy but unmistakable. Detective Ethan Cole, 10 years younger, standing outside the burned-out factory. He wore the same coat he still wore today, the one with the patched elbow, same crooked stance, same hard stare. Only problem. Ethan had no memory of being there. 10 years ago, he hadn't even been a detective yet. He'd been a beat cop in a different precinct, chasing petty thieves, not haunting abandoned factories. So, how the hell did this photo exist? Ethan shoved it into a folder and lit another cigarette. The smoke curled against the ceiling, thick as his doubts. Something about Clara's obsession wasn't random. She hadn't been digging into cold cases for fun. She had been pulling at a thread, and it was starting to wrap around his own neck. Morning came harsh, the city bathed in neon and smog. Ethan hadn't slept. He went straight to the precinct, folder tucked under his arm. The bullpen was its usual chaos, phones ringing, cops shouting, the coffee pot already burnt. His partner, Detective Marcus Hale, leaned back in his chair, chewing a toothpick. Marcus was broad, sharp-eyed, with a grin that never reached his eyes. You look like death reheated, Marcus said. Feel worse, Ethan muttered, tossing the folder onto his desk. Marcus flipped it open, whistled low. Clara's wall of freak show faces. You're not kidding about this. Ethan pointed at the factory photo. Look closer. Marcus squinted, his brow furrowed. That's you. Yeah. From when? That's the thing. I don't know. Marcus leaned back, toothpick shifting. You sure? Memory's a funny thing, Cole. Maybe you drove past on patrol. Maybe someone snapped a picture. Ethan's voice sharpened. With me front and center staring right at the damn camera. Don't buy it. Marcus didn't argue. He never did when Ethan's voice carried that edge. Instead, he tapped the folder. So, what's your play? Ethan exhaled smoke, eyes on the photo. Find out who's building this web, and why Clara was caught in it. The Voss family wasn't talking, not honestly. So, Ethan started elsewhere. The missing persons on Clara's board. First stop, Janet Harlow. Vanished 5 years ago. A nurse, mid-30s, last seen leaving St. Brigid's Hospital after a late shift. Her sister still lived in the same cramped apartment complex. The door creaked open to reveal a tired woman in a faded robe, cigarette dangling from her lips. Her eyes widened when Ethan showed his badge. "I told the cops everything years ago," she said. "Nobody cared then. Why now?" "Because someone else cared," Ethan said. He showed her Clara's photo of Janet. "Recognize this?" The woman's hands trembled as she touched the photo. "That's my sister. God, you actually found something." "Not yet," Ethan said, "but I think she's part of something bigger." Did Janet ever mention the Voss family? Or that factory on East 12th? The woman frowned. "Factory? No. But..." She hesitated. She kept a journal. Cops never asked for it. Said it wasn't important. "Do you still have it?" She disappeared into the apartment and returned with a tattered leather notebook. Ethan flipped it open. Most entries were mundane, shift complaints, grocery lists. But one passage stood out, scrawled hastily. "Another patient gone. Records vanish overnight. Admin says discharged, but no family ever picks them up. Something's wrong here. Must dig deeper." Ethan's pulse quickened. A hospital. Patients vanishing, just like the missing persons. He tucked the journal into his coat. "This helps." "Thank you," the woman's eyes pleaded. If you find anything..." Ethan nodded once. He didn't promise. He never promised. Back at the precinct, Ethan spread the journal pages across his desk. Marcus leaned over, whistling low again. So Clara wasn't the first. Amateur detective in this mess. "No," Ethan muttered. "But she might be the first who got close enough to shake them." "Them?" Ethan tapped the photo of the factory. "Whoever's running this show." That night, Ethan drove to East 12th. The factory loomed like a corpse against the skyline, windows shattered, walls blackened from the old fire. The chain-link fence was cut, rusted wide enough for someone to slip through. Inside, the air reeked of mildew and ash. Rats scurried through rubble. Graffiti scarred the walls. But under the layers of vandalism, Ethan spotted something else. Symbols, circles, lines, numbers, drawn with precision, not spray cans. He knelt, running his fingers over one. "Fresh, not older than a few weeks. Looking for ghosts, detective." The voice echoed from the shadows. Ethan spun, gun drawn. A man stepped into the dim light, hands raised. Mid-40s, trench coat, face gaunt. Ethan recognized him instantly. Daniel Price, an investigative journalist who'd vanished 3 years ago. But here he was, alive. "Price," Ethan said, gun steady. "They said you skipped town." Price laughed hollowly. "That's what they always say. People don't vanish here, Cole. They get erased." Ethan lowered the gun slightly. "You know about Clara Voss?" Price's smile faded. "She got too close, just like me, just like Janet Harlow, just like dozens before. They're not missing. They're taken." "Taken by who?" Ethan pressed. Price stepped closer, eyes darting to the factory walls. "By the ones who built this city, the ones who own it. You think the Voss fortune came from textiles? No, that factory was never just a factory. It was a filter." Ethan's grip tightened. "What the hell does that mean?" Price leaned in, whispering. "It means you shouldn't be here. They already have your name." Ethan froze. "What did you just say?" Price pulled something from his coat pocket, a folded piece of paper. He pressed it into Ethan's hand. "Don't trust anyone, especially not your own." Before Ethan could stop him, Price bolted into the shadows, disappearing like smoke. Ethan unfolded the paper. His stomach dropped. It was a photocopy of Clara's board, and in the center, circled in red, was a photo of Ethan, the same one he'd already found, only this copy had a date scrawled beneath it. Tomorrow. Part 3, The Masks of Power. The date scrawled beneath his photograph burned into Ethan's skull. Tomorrow. Tomorrow what? Tomorrow he disappeared. Tomorrow he was erased, like Janet Harlow, like Daniel Price had nearly been. He shoved the paper into his coat, jaw tight. He'd lived his career by a rule: never let fear steer you. But this was different. This was personal. By morning, New Briar was grey and restless, rain still clinging to its streets. Ethan dragged himself into the precinct, every cop's chatter sounding like static. He noticed it then. The looks, quick glances in his direction. Conversations cut off when he passed. Marcus was waiting at his desk, a fresh toothpick between his teeth. "You look like you fought a train." "Feel like it," Ethan muttered, dropping into his chair. He slid the photocopy toward Marcus. "Price gave me this." Marcus scanned it, frown deepening. Same photo as before, but now, with a date. What the hell does that mean? "That I'm on someone's timetable," Ethan said. Marcus tapped the page. "Or someone's playing you. Maybe Price is part of this game. Guy disappears for years, pops up spouting conspiracies. Convenient." Ethan leaned forward, voice low. He knew Clara's board, he knew names, and he knew about me. That's not nothing. Marcus didn't argue, but his eyes narrowed in thought. The rest of the day blurred in routine paperwork, but Ethan felt the weight of eyes on him. Too many, too often. By evening, he went back to his office, lights low, blinds, half shut. He spread Clara's files, Janet's journal, Price's warnings. The puzzle pieces didn't fit yet, but they circled the same center: the Voss family, the factory, and him. A knock at the door broke his focus. He opened it to find Elena Voss, wrapped in a dark coat, her face pale but composed. "Mrs. Voss," Ethan said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" Her voice trembled, just slightly. "I had to come. Victor can't know." Ethan gestured her inside. She perched on the edge of the chair, clutching her handbag like a lifeline. "I read Clara's diary," Elena whispered, "before Victor burned it." Ethan's eyes sharpened. "Burned it?" He said it was nonsense, obsession. But I saw names, dates, things about the hospital, the factory. She believed the disappearances weren't random. She believed, Eleanor swallowed hard, that someone in this house was responsible. The room chilled. Ethan's voice was flat. "Who?" Eleanor's eyes glistened. "Victor, my husband." She thought he was involved. Ethan's cigarette trembled in his hand. He'd suspected the Voss patriarch, but hearing it from his wife carved it deeper. "Why tell me now?" "Because," Eleanor whispered, leaning closer, "I think she was right. And I think I'm next." That night, Ethan tailed Victor Voss. The man drove a sleek black car through the rain-slick streets, heading not toward his offices or clubs, but to the east side, the factory district. He parked outside a warehouse adjacent to the burned-out textile plant. Ethan killed his lights, keeping distance. He watched as Victor exited the car and was greeted by two men in suits. They opened the warehouse doors, and Victor stepped inside. Ethan slipped out, hugging shadows. He approached carefully, rain masking his footsteps. Through a crack in the warehouse door, he glimpsed movement inside: tables, files, photographs, maps of the city with pins marking disappearances, men in suits moving like clockwork, and at the center, Victor Voss, speaking low, authoritative. Ethan's blood ran cold. This wasn't a grieving father. This was an orchestrator. He pulled out his phone, snapped photos through the gap. Proof. Finally, proof. A hand clamped down on his shoulder. Ethan spun, gun raised, but another hand gripped his wrist. A flashlight blinded him. "Cole!" a voice barked. "The hell are you doing here?" It was Marcus. Ethan lowered the gun slowly, heart hammering. "What are you doing here?" Marcus's face was unreadable in the shadows. "Following up a lead." "Same as you. You expect me to believe that?" Ethan snapped. Marcus's jaw clenched. "Believe what you want, but you're in over your head, partner. These aren't street thugs. This is power, and power doesn't play fair." Ethan's Voice hardened. You knew about this. I suspected, Marcus said. But suspicion doesn't put cuffs on men like Voss. Evidence does. And now you've risked blowing our shot at it. Before Ethan could argue, the warehouse doors opened. Voices spilled out. He and Marcus melted back into the darkness as Victor's men stepped outside, scanning the street. They waited until the car engines roared away before moving. Ethan's breath came ragged, fury mixing with fear. You should have told me, he hissed. Marcus's stare was cold, and you should have trusted me. But now we've both seen too much. Back at the precinct, Ethan locked himself in the records room, digging through archived case files. He pulled every unsolved disappearance that matched Clara's board, cross-referencing dates and locations. The patterns screamed at him, clusters around hospitals, around factories, around places owned, directly or indirectly, by Voss Industries. It was a machine built to swallow people whole. He leaned back, exhausted, when something caught his eye. A memo, buried in the files, dated 10 years ago. Officer Ethan Cole assigned to East 12th Fire Perimeter. Report pending. His throat tightened. 10 years ago. The night of the factory fire. The night the photo showed him standing outside. But he had no memory. Hands shaking, he flipped to the attached report. It was blank, signed with his name, but empty, and beneath his forged signature, another, in neat script, Victor Voss. The door creaked behind him. Ethan turned, adrenaline spiking. Elena. Voss stood there, her coat dripping rain, eyes wide. They know you're digging, detective. You don't have much time. Ethan clenched the report. What aren't you telling me? Her voice cracked. Clara wasn't the first, and she won't be the last. But you were supposed to be. What? Ethan demanded, her eyes filled with tears. You were supposed to vanish 10 years ago, but something went wrong. Part 4, The Doppelganger. You were supposed to vanish 10 years ago. Elena's words hit harder than any bullet. The records room seemed to shrink around Ethan, the humming lights pressing down on him. He gripped the edge of the desk. Start talking, now. Elena's hands trembled as she pulled a folded paper from her bag. It was old, yellowed at the edges. She handed it to him. Ethan unfolded it and froze. It was a police report. His name on the header, but not in his handwriting. The details described his death. Officer Ethan Cole. Fatal injury during East 12th factory fire. Body unrecovered. His pulse thundered. This is fake. Elena's voice was barely a whisper. Is it? Ethan stormed out of the precinct into the night, rain slashing his face. Memories he didn't have spun in his skull like jagged glass. A night at the factory. His name on a death report. A photograph of him standing there. Had he been there? Had he died there? He didn't notice Marcus trailing him until his partner, caught up outside a diner, ducking under the awning. Cole, Marcus said firmly. We need to talk. Ethan spun on him. You knew, didn't you? Marcus's jaw tightened. I knew something didn't add up. You came onto the force fresh-faced, but there were gaps. No academy photos, no transfer records anyone could verify. But you were a damn good cop, so I didn't ask. Ethan's voice cracked with fury. You think I'm not real? That I'm some kind of ghost? I think, Marcus said carefully, that whatever happened at East 12th, it rewrote you. Maybe you were supposed to disappear like Elena said, but you didn't. And now they're tying up loose ends. That night, Ethan returned to the factory, alone. The burned walls loomed like a scar. He pushed deeper than before, flashlight cutting swaths through the dark. Rats scattered, water dripped in steady echoes. And then he found it. A hidden stairwell, buried under fallen beams. He shoved debris aside and descended into the earth. The air grew colder, stale with secrets. The passage led to a chamber beneath the factory, lined with steel doors. Some open, revealing empty cells. Others locked, padlocks rusted, but intact. His beam caught something scrawled on the wall. Listen. The same word Clara had written, the same word that haunted the back of his photo. And then, a sound. Whispers. Faint, but real. They rose from the darkness, overlapping voices, dozens of them. Ethan spun, light, sweeping empty corners. But the whispers weren't from the hall. They were from his head, fragments, screams, orders shouted, the crackle of fire, and then his own voice, pleading. Don't erase me. I'll do anything. Ethan stumbled back, clutching his skull. His flashlight beam landed on something at the end of the corridor. A mirror, tall and cracked. He staggered toward it and froze. The reflection staring back wasn't him. Not fully. It was younger, cleaner. The man from the photograph. The Ethan from 10 years ago. And the reflection moved differently. Who are you? Ethan whispered. The reflection smiled. A cruel smile. The one who stayed behind. The glass, spiderwebbed with cracks. The reflection pressed a hand against it. Ethan raised his own hand, trembling, and felt warmth bleed through the cold glass. And then the mirror shattered. When the shards hit the ground, the whispers died. Silence consumed the chamber. Ethan staggered back, chest heaving. But something was wrong. The reflection was gone, yet he felt it, inside him, like he wasn't alone in his own skin anymore. By the time Ethan surfaced from the factory, dawn smeared the horizon. His phone buzzed violently in his pocket. Marcus, he answered, voice raw. What? Marcus's tone was sharp. Where the hell are you? They're moving Clara, tonight. Ethan froze. She's alive? Barely, Marcus said. Price. Got word out. Voss has her stashed. They're transferring her before sunrise. If we don't move now, she's gone for good. Ethan's mind reeled. Whispers still echoed faintly in his skull. But one thing cut through the noise. Clara was alive. Where? He demanded. Marcus hesitated. That's the problem. It's not just Victor. It's half the damn city council, judges, cops, people you don't touch. If we go in, then we go in, Ethan snapped. Because if we don't, I'm already dead. They met in the shadows of the docks, near a row of shipping containers. Rain hammered metal, the river black and restless. Marcus loaded his gun, jaw tight. One wrong move. We're corpses. Ethan's hand trembled as he checked his own weapon. Not from fear. From the lingering pulse of something foreign inside him. That reflection. That other Ethan. They crept forward, slipping between crates. Voices carried over the storm, men shouting, boots clanging. A convoy of black vans idled near the pier. Through the slats of a crate, Ethan saw her, Clara Voss. Pale, bound, a gag over her mouth. She struggled against two guards as they dragged her toward a van. Ethan's chest tightened. She was real. Alive. On. 3, Marcus whispered. But before Ethan could nod, a voice cut the air. Smooth. Icy. Detective Cole. Ethan turned slowly. Victor Voss stood beneath a docklight, flanked by armed men. His suit was immaculate despite the rain, his silver, hair unmoved, his eyes gleamed with triumph. I wondered when you'd remember, Victor said softly. But it doesn't matter. Tonight, the circle closes. You'll go where you were meant to go a decade ago. Ethan raised his gun, fury burning. Let her go. Victor's smile was almost kind. You still don't understand, do you? Clara was never the prize. You were. Part 5. The truth. Bleeds. Through rain streaked down Ethan's face, cold and sharp, but the chill in Victor Voss's eyes cut deeper. You were never supposed to live this long, Victor said, voice smooth as marble. Yet here you are, meddling again. A glitch in a system designed to erase. Ethan's gun stayed trained on him, but his hands trembled. What did you do to me? Victor's smile was thin. I corrected you. The words slid under Ethan's skin like knives. Corrected me? 10 years ago, Victor said, stepping closer. You were nothing. A beat cop who stumbled where he didn't belong. You saw what you shouldn't have, and you begged to live. The whispers in Ethan's head surged, fragments of his own voice echoing. Don't erase me. I'll do anything. His stomach twisted. He hadn't imagined it. Victor's eyes glinted. We gave you another chance, but you weren't you anymore. You were ours, a hollow shell, rewritten with obedience. And yet, something lingered. A flaw. A memory that refused to die. Ethan's chest tightened. The missing years, the gaps, the feeling of watching his own life from a distance. You remade me. Exactly, Victor said. The program was supposed to wipe clean, rebuild stronger, but you resisted. You were our failure. And Clara, he gestured toward the van where she struggled against her guards. Clara found the proof. Ethan's grip on the gun faltered. Proof. That was why Clara had vanished. Not because she was random prey, but because she'd uncovered him. Marcus whispered beside him, Cole, we're outnumbered. We can't win this head on. Ethan didn't answer. His world tilted. If what Victor said was true, who the hell was he? Victor raised his hand. His guards moved, weapons gleaming in the rain. Ethan fired first. The shot cracked like thunder, dropping one guard. Chaos erupted. Marcus dove behind a crate, returning fire. Clara screamed through her gag as bullets sparked against the vans. Ethan moved on instinct, heart pounding. The whispers in his head weren't just noise anymore. They were commands. They guided his movements, sharper, faster, like muscle memory he didn't own. He dropped 2 more guards before the thought caught up. Whose side am I on? Victor watched calmly from the docks, edge, untouched, like a conductor in control of the storm. Marcus grabbed Ethan's arm, yanking him behind cover. Cole, snap out of it. You're moving like them. Ethan's breath came ragged. Like who? Marcus's eyes were grim, like the ones who vanished. The words hit like a fist. Was that what he was now? A ghost in flesh? Another burst of gunfire forced them down. Clara struggled harder, kicking a guard until he slammed her against the van. Rage surged through Ethan, not his own, but something deeper, hotter. He stood and fired, the bullet tearing through the guard's skull. The whispers purred in satisfaction. Ethan's hands shook as the smoke cleared. He'd killed before. But this felt different, too easy, too natural. He looked at his reflection in the van's rain-streaked window. For a moment, it wasn't him. It was the other Ethan, the one who'd smiled in the mirror. Enough. Victor's voice cut through the chaos. His men froze, weapons lowered. The silence rang louder than gunfire. Victor stepped forward, rain gleaming on his suit. You can fight, or you can listen. Either way, you'll end where you began. Ethan's voice cracked. What did you make me into? Victor's expression softened, almost fatherly. The future, the perfect witness, the perfect soldier. No history, no ties, only function. You should have been the first of many. Ethan's stomach turned. And the others? The missing people? Victor's eyes gleamed. Prototypes. Some failed, some adapted, but all served a purpose. Clara thrashed against her captors, muffled cries breaking through the storm. Victor's gaze returned to Ethan. You are proof that erasure can be rewritten. And now, you will either return to the program, or you will be erased properly this time. Marcus raised his gun, voice low. Not happening. But Victor didn't even flinch. He nodded at Ethan instead. Decide, stand with us, where you belong, or die with them. Ethan's chest heaved. The whispers urged him to obey, to step forward, to embrace what he was. He felt their pull, a tide stronger than his will. Marcus's voice cut through it, fierce and steady. You're not theirs, Cole. You're mine, my partner. You bleed, you drink, you curse like the rest of us. You're real, no matter what they did to you. Real. The words slammed into him harder than any bullet. He turned toward Victor, fury boiling. I don't care what you built me for. I don't belong to you. Victor's smile thinned. Then you've chosen death. He raised his hand. Gunfire erupted again, a storm of bullets ripping through the docks. The fight blurred into chaos. Ethan moved with a speed that wasn't his, guided by the whispers. But this time, he bent them to his will. He wasn't their puppet. He wasn't Victor's creation. One by one, the guards fell. Marcus fought at his side, back to back, every shot precise. Finally, silence. Bodies littered the docks. Only Victor remained, standing untouched, his calm unbroken. Ethan leveled his gun at him. It ends tonight. Victor studied him, almost pitying. You think you've won? You've only remembered half the truth. Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger. Ask yourself, Victor said softly, whose face was smiling back at you in the mirror. The words froze Ethan's hand, because deep inside, he knew Victor was right. That reflection hadn't been a hallucination. It was real, and it wanted out. Part 6. Echoes of the vanished. Rain hammered the docks like 1,000 fists. The world shrank to 3 figures. Ethan, Marcus, and Victor Voss. Bodies of fallen guards bled into the puddles, crimson swirling with oil, while thunder rolled. Low over the harbour. Ethan's gun was steady, but inside, his mind was fracturing. Victor's words gnawed at him. Whose face was smiling back at you in the mirror? The reflection hadn't been a trick. It hadn't been madness. It was real. Something inside him. Something waiting. Victor spread his arms, rain dripping from his suit jacket. You feel it, don't you? The fracture, the duplicate pressing against the glass. That isn't madness, Ethan. That is design. Marcus spat rainwater, his gun still aimed. You're bluffing. He's not some damn lab rat. Victor chuckled softly. You think small, detective. This city doesn't vanish hundreds of people by chance. We perfected memory extraction, personality overwrite, duplication. Ethan here was the closest we came to success. Ethan's stomach churned. Duplication? Victor's eyes glowed with triumph. You are not the man you think. You are. You are half of him. A copy carved from the original, a shadow with borrowed bones. The whispers inside Ethan roared. Half, hollow, incomplete. Marcus shook his head. Don't listen to him, Cole. He's trying to break you. But Ethan wasn't sure anymore. The gaps in his past, the other reflection, the sense that his life had been stitched together by someone else's hands. He hissed through clenched teeth. Where's the original? Victor's smile was sharp. Closer than you think. Suddenly, a sound tore through the storm, a low metallic groan from the warehouse behind them. A door screeched open, and footsteps echoed. Ethan turned, heart hammering. Out of the shadows stepped himself. The man was taller, broader, sharper around the edges. His movements precise, mechanical, like a predator. His face was Ethan's face, but colder, perfect, untouched by doubt. The reflection had come to life. Marcus staggered back, muttering, Jesus Christ. Victor's smile widened. Meet the original, the one you were carved from. Ethan Cole, version 1. The other Ethan's gaze locked on him, empty and ruthless. You're defective, the double said, voice deeper, stripped of warmth. I was sent to finish you. Ethan's pulse spiked. His gun trembled as he pointed it at himself, at the thing wearing his skin. Marcus snapped. Cole, don't! That's not you. That's... Victor silenced him with a raised hand. Watch. This is the truth. The echo and the source face to face. Only one survives. The real or not Ethan lunged. The fight was brutal, feral. Fist against fist. Bone against bone. Every punch felt like striking a mirror that refused to shatter. The double knew his moves, anticipated them, counted them. Ethan staggered back, blood spilling from his lip. His double's eyes were ice. You were never meant to exist. You're the mistake. The whispers surged louder than ever, a storm in his skull. Erase. 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 Ethan roared, shoving it down. I'm not a mistake. I'm human. The double sneered. Prove it. They clashed again, slipping in the rain, slamming against crates, fists breaking wood. Marcus tried to intervene, but Victor's men, those few who still stood, kept him pinned. Clara screamed from the van, helpless. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for identity. The double pinned him against a container, hand closing around his throat. Ethan gasped, spots filling his vision. You feel it, the double hissed. Every memory in you is stolen. Every scar is mine. You're nothing but an echo. Ethan clawed at his grip, mind racing. If everything in him was copied, then what made him different? His gaze flicked to Marcus, his partner's face lined with fear and fury, his voice shouting his name, his loyalty, his belief. That was it. Ethan's chest burned as he rasped, If I'm an echo, then I choose what I become. With a surge of rage, he drove his knee up, breaking the double's hold. He seized his fallen gun, pressed it to his twin's chest, and fired. The echo of himself staggered, a perfect hole blooming red across his heart. His eyes flickered, not rage, but confusion. For the first time, the double looked human. He collapsed into the rain, blood washing into the dark water below. Victor's smile never faltered. Remarkable, the echo kills the source. Perhaps that makes you real, after all. Ethan turned on him, gun raised, fury shaking his bones. This ends now. Victor spread his hands. Kill me, and you'll never know the whole truth. Spare me, and I'll show you the rest. Marcus shouted, Don't listen! Put him down, Cole! The whispers pressed harder than ever. Kill him. Spare him. Become. Erase. Ethan's finger curled on the trigger. Victor leaned in, voice silk. You've beaten one ghost, but there are more. Hundreds. Thousands. And if you kill me, you'll never know if the man you were is still out there. The thought froze him. What if the original, Ethan Cole, wasn't dead? What if he was still alive, somewhere, erased, waiting? The rain pounded. The world narrowed. His choices crashed together like waves. Ethan lowered the gun. Victor's smirk returned. Wise. But before he could speak again, Marcus fired. The shot ripped through Victor's skull, snapping his head back. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Silence. Marcus exhaled hard. Sorry, partner. Couldn't risk him talking circles around you again. Ethan stared at Victor's corpse, numb. Relief didn't come, only dread. Clara stumbled free as Marcus cut her restraints. She clung to Ethan, trembling. It's over, right? Ethan didn't answer. He looked down at the other Ethan's body, his own face staring up at him, lifeless. The whispers didn't fade. They grew louder, hungrier, because somewhere deep inside, he knew Victor had told the truth. The double wasn't the last. He wasn't unique. He wasn't whole. He was just one echo among many. And the originals might still be out there. Final. Seen later, as dawn bled over the city, Ethan stood in front of a cracked bathroom mirror. His face looked back, bruised, weary. But then, just for a flicker, the reflection smiled. And Ethan hadn't.